This is a recording for Greece Harmony. I'm Dr. J.K. Grover with my views on Gandhiji on his 151st birthday. When the editor Greece Harmony asked me to share my views on Gandhiji, I thought of um, the English version of the autobiography that my dad had given to my son with his signature. I would like you to, in which he wrote, I would like you to read and discuss. Well, I got the book and was happy to see quite a few markings by him. So I quickly read them, and here I am. Introducing the great man through his book, His Experiment with Truth. He is brutally frank and has shared his inner emotions. He was very shy as a young man. However, he was like any other boy who'd like to experiment with taboos or unethical values and then come out of it with his own reasoning. They were Vaishnavs. His experiment with meat eating, because he wanted to be strong in order to get over his fear of ghosts, thieves, serpents. A doggerel it was amongst the boys. Behold the mighty Englishman, he rules the Indian small, because being a meat eater, he's 5 cubits tall. So he wanted not only himself to eat meat, he wanted the entire everybody to eat meat in order to be strong. So he also wanted to be daring and strong so that the boys might defeat the English and make India free. The momentous departure in life, that is experiment, but eating, he didn't quite, eating meat he didn't quite fancy. He decided that he'd take it up openly when his parents were no more, perhaps. But in England, after reading Salt Pleas of Vegetarianism, a book on that, which he read from cover to cover, he became a vegetarian by choice. All along in England, he had abstained from meat in the interest of truth and vowed to his mother. But now, he became a devout vegetarian out of choice, his own choice. So he talks about his self-introspection, the period of infatuation of being an English gentleman. He kept account of every farthing he spent, calculated his expenses, and he writes, "Let every youth take a leaf out of this book and make it a point to account for everything that comes into and goes out of his pocket." He talks about the necessity of to economize. Surely one gains at the end, he said. He would walk long distances to save expenses. And it was the long walks that kept him free from illness throughout his stay in England and gave him a fairly strong body. He talks about the metric exam he took in England, where he learned Latin. And he talks about that in later on in life it came in good stead. And he also has talked about interpretation of vows, which if I have the time I'll go on, but let's talk about his vegetarianism. He started a vegetarian club. He was elected to the, here I'm going to talk about his not being able to say anything. The man who moved the world, whose words the whole world listened, could not speak, was tongue-tied. So that's why I found it, this has been marked and I find it very interesting. So he started the club and he was elected the executive committee of the Vegetarian Society. He attended all the meetings, but he was always tongue-tied when it came to talk or to express himself. The rest of the members appeared to be, he felt that all of them, all the members, appeared to be better informed, and he had no courage to speak. When he wanted to make a point, um, all so that's very amusing that I found. But yes, it was in South Africa he got over his shyness, though, and after that it was no looking back. His hesitancy in speech, once an annoyance to him, he found that also to be benefiting him because it taught him economy of words, he said. And he gave himself a certificate that not never a thoughtless word escaped his lips or tongue. So he said, I don't regret anything in speech and writing. His shyness in reality was his shield, a buckler, he said. It allowed him to grow to his dissemination of truth. Then we come to about his law, how he takes up the first law case, how where he had to study the Indian law. He was at sea, he didn't know anything about it. And he tried his best to write his briefs, that is, plaint statement and written statements. Then his heart stopped. He heard stories about barristers and vakils. Sir Firoz Shah Mehta lies in his abilities, lies in his profound knowledge of law. And he knows his evidence law by heart. He was so taken by. And then he heard about Badruddin Taibji, a wonderful power of argument in his pieces, inspired the judges. He developed some interest for Evidence Act and read Mine's law with deep interest, Hindu law. But he had not the courage to conduct a case. He took a case of Mammy Bai and he charged rupees 30 for fees. The case was not likely to last longer than a day. So he talks about his debut case, and it's very amusing that it was a small causes court. He appeared for the defendant and he had to cross examine the plaintiff witness. He said, I stood up, but my heart sank into my boots, and I could not think of any question to ask the plaintiff. So the judge must have laughed, he says. The vakils no doubt enjoyed this spectacle. He sat down and told the agent that he could not conduct the case and have the fee back. He was so ashamed, he decided not to take up any more of that until he had courage enough to conduct them. And and who would be so foolish to entrust his case to me, he said, only to lose it. Indeed, he did go to court again, and that was in South Africa. And in South Africa, he became a lawyer to reckon with. He learned the true function of a lawyer was to unite parties, even going asunder. 20 years of his practice as a lawyer was occupied in bringing about private compromises of hundreds of cases. He said, I lost nothing thereby, not even money, certainly not my soul. And then he also talks about his speech he wrote for Firoz Shah, and we know the whole how Gandhiji is a man who was the father of the nation and who brought about so much to the nation.